Hello and welcome back to RageGamingVideos. My name is Hollow, and today I have something a little bit different for you. Recently, I've been making my very first lore videos on the channel, and it's been a really interesting experience. I mean, you guys have been really welcoming. They are very hard videos to make, but I've really been happy with what we produced so far. Now, in the efforts of choosing different topics, it's quite difficult to pick something that is big enough and interesting enough and hopefully unique enough that it's not been talked about that much. And in the efforts to decide topics and whatnot, there's been a lot of little strains and strands that have led to something but not something substantial. Something interesting and unsolved or mysterious that is unfortunately a little bit too much speculation because there isn't enough concrete proof. These are the unsolved mysteries of Elden Ring that I can't make a full lore video on. So I'm here today to talk to you about 5 of these unsolved mysteries, and I want to hear your thoughts about them. Let's dive in. Let's begin then with what I believe is a great example of a strange and unsolved mystery that we can speculate on, right? But there's no 100% about this, which I suppose you could say a lot about in terms of Elden Ring and its lore. But here's my question to you. Why is it some crabs have this face on their back? If we take a proper look at it, you can see that it's very clearly 2 eyes and a nose. It's the nostrils just poking out of the back. There doesn't appear to be a mouth, and as you can see, it appears on all of the crabs here. Like, there's not just these 2, but there's these 3 over here. They all have the face on the back, and as we spawn in the big crab in this actual area, you can see that it's actually covered in these eyes. It is absolutely covered in these markings and this strange growth that comes out of it. And maybe you realized upon looking at it, it's quite similar to something we've seen in the game before. You see, there's something under Stormveil Castle you may have seen before. A river that's almost like a river of the dead. Literal bones with skeletons inside of them, leading down this path. And just beyond that face again. That horrible, strange squid face with its nostrils and the eyes. Although the eyes are plucked out and missing, not that same yellow eye that is on the back of those crabs. Right next to this face is the Prince of Death's pustule. This talisman raises your vitality when equipped. And if we flip it upside down, we can see that it's the 2 eyes and the nostril. So it seems like it's the Prince of Death's pustule that is growing out of the back of those crabs. The description reads that this pustule came from the visage of the Prince of Death, he who used to be called Godwin. It said he's buried under the capital at the Erd Tree's roots. Well, let's go look at him. This face here will be very familiar. As we come to the deep root depths and they take a look at the current state of Godwin, while it's a bit awkward because his face is turned, we can see that, hey, he has his eyes here now. There's that same face with the nostrils. Very familiar to what's growing out of the back of those crabs. So, for some reason, those crabs are actually tied to the Prince of Death. Maybe the roots of the Erd Tree are spread out, and so this death, this rot or whatever it is, that is spreading via the roots of the Erd Tree all over the lands in between. Now, this is the really cool part. If we look at the map, right, here we are, right here at the Prince of Death's throne, and then I show you exactly what's above that. Exactly where I was standing when I was looking at those crabs is right here. So it is right above the Prince of Death. So the roots here that are going upwards and spreading that effect, spreading to what's above, that is directly below those crabs with this fella's face on it. If we have one of those crabs actually attack us, you can see that it's causing a buildup of death. They are able to death blight you. This all comes from an awesome Reddit user called Kirk Baboon, who posted this over 2 months ago. Hey, have you seen the crabs with the weird face on their back? It is his great theory that yes, it's because they're above Godwin's throne in the deep root depths, and the roots are somehow spreading that death blight and causing those crabs to mutate in that way. A really cool theory, but not based on something that's absolutely concrete. But I really like the concept, and I definitely subscribe to it. Next up, here's one for you. In the opening cinematic of Elden Ring, we were shown quite a few images of important characters and even events of the game, and alluding to the mystery of it all. During that, we saw this tiny moment where we could see Radahn, of all people, on his back, splayed out, barely holding the cane of Morgott, which is about to pierce him, because as we know, inside of that cane is the cursed blood blade. To say the least, in this image, Radahn is not just losing, he is getting absolutely destroyed and is an inch from death, an inch from being pierced by that cursed blood blade. It's not up for debate that Morgott was winning that fight, at least in that moment. Now, in regards to Radahn and his power level, it's equal, if not more, than Malenia, who was the only person to actually take him down through her self-sacrifice, and ultimately both of them lost, leading to, I guess, a draw. Why is all of this happening? Why would Radahn fight Morgott? Well, when Marika shattered the Elden Ring, the world was thrown into that great conflict, and as a result, we knew that time as the Shattering. The offspring of Marika at that point claimed shards of that now broken ring, and were attempting to gather multiple, ideally all of them, right, to gain the most power, and then take control as the new Elden Lord. This shattering of the factions, the war that happened in the lands between, that ultimately led to Caelid as we know it today, that scarlet rotten mess, that had no clear winner. With no clear winner, the Greater Will just went on with no new successor, which is where we, the Tarnished, eventually came in. As we know, Morgott, also known as Margott the Fell, was acting as a guardian of Lindell and the Erd Tree itself, barring the way for any Tarnished or would-be lords. And it would seem that Morgott was so effective that he was able to completely prevent anyone even approaching the Erd Tree in the way we are first able after defeating him, and of course leading the way for the return of Hoarelu, aka Godfrey. With all of that in mind, maybe it no longer surprises you after all then to see Morgott overwhelming Radahn in this way. Despite the fact that Malenia and Radahn were like the highest contenders to take the throne, clearly neither of them could have taken on Morgott, which is funny because my first fight with Radahn was a nightmare, my first fight with Malenia was certainly a nightmare, and I didn't really struggle with the Morgott fight. So is that still image of Morgott holding down and nearly piercing Radahn with his weapon a valid representation of the power level of each and who would win in a fight? Or maybe it was a surprise ambush that we're just seeing. What we can say for sure is Radahn was never strong enough to take Lindell and approach the Erd Tree. But otherwise, I think that's an unsolved mystery. Next up for Unsolved Mysteries, here's one that happens all around the world. We have this unlikely fellow here standing at the southeastern point of Aghiel's Lake. As we approach him and say, "Hello, how's it going? What's up?" we kill him, and suddenly he turns into a bear. And it's not exactly a joke of a bear. We find these in the east of Limgrave and a few other areas around the world. And these are really dangerous enemies, especially early game. As you can see, even at high level, it's still just interrupting everything I do. So it's no joke. It's a full-on bear. That's a real bear fight. It's not like a fake version of one. And as you can see, as we kill it, it drops a larval tear, which is a core of a creature of mimicry known as a silver tear. As we know, this is the item that's required to respec at Rennala. Here in the lake region, just northeast of the Folly of the Lake area, we have some lobsters, those giant lobster enemies that are sleeping, and then we have one roaming around on the left here. Now, as I go fight one and defeat it, like so, watch what happens when it dies. It turns into a grafted scion, which is a really rare enemy in the game, like an actual grafted scion. We only see these a couple times in the entire world. For some reason, that lobster turns into a grafted scion, and like I said with the bear, it's the real thing. It's not like a weak version. And upon defeat, another larval tear drop. Now, the silver tears come from a very specific place in the world, in the area of Nokron, the Eternal City. They were originally created, as per their lore anyway, to become a successor Elden Lord, to transform into something so powerful that it could actually challenge the throne. And as we run through here, where we have a few of these, we see that same transformation effect. But this one turns into, well, a naked guy with a shield and a little spear. Another one transforms here, and this is forming into a naked guy with a hell of a incredible haircut and a big weapon, big sword. This last one, huge transformation, turns into a giant or a troll, and it's a full-fledged one, able to do the same attacks, the same roar, the same sort of power level, very dangerous. It would seem to me that these silver tears have somehow made their way to the surface. Not many of them, but some of them. And we find them kind of blending in with the surroundings. That first unassuming enemy is with a other few peasants and former royals that are just mining or patrolling the area. The second one, the lobster that turns into a grafted scion, well, I guess that one was just hanging out with the lobsters and figured that was the way of life it wanted to go for. And what it turns into is confusing. The bear guy makes sense. You know, they're quite near East Limgrave where they would see bears, and I guess it would imagine it's a strong thing to become. But a grafted scion, that's definitely a weird one. When would this one down here in Nokron have seen a troll of all things? For me, that's an unsolved mystery. Question I cannot answer with confidence. If you guys know of anything in-game that could answer these questions, then let me know. Next up, we're going to continue a little bit talking about these giants, these trolls, and something's a little bit weird. You see, a friend of mine asked me a question when he was playing for Elden Ring for the first time, about a month after it released. Why do all of the trolls, or the giants, why do they all have that bit of stomach just carved out? Why are their guts on display? Are they good? Like, that doesn't look healthy, does it? And it's something we've seen in the other games where they've had, like, giant enemies like that. But look inside. Do you see that? Something is contained within that stomach. It seems like that their stomachs have been carved out by who or what, I can't say, but something, maybe even themselves, carved out their own stomach, their own flesh. Or they're born this way, I guess, and behind some roots is something embedded in there. And unfortunately, that is as far as this goes for me. But thankfully, thanks to the once again incredible creator Zully the Witch, who I've talked about in a few videos at this point, is someone that's just finding secrets in this game that are incredible. A little bit back, it seems they talked about this exact topic. This is someone who's very versed in messing with game files, finding secrets, and actually altering the game as we know it. And we're able to, through that, see what's inside, and it seems to be a tombstone locked behind those root-like intestines. Now, Zully goes on to talk about that more in depth in the video. They go on to find that actually there's a sort of mount mechanic to do with that tombstone. What do I mean by mount mechanic? Well, as you can see with the trolls here that are wandering the world carrying this carriage, dragging it along, they have these sticks, these nails straight through their chest. And actually, it's perfectly in line with the tombstone, almost as if it's penetrating through the tombstone. It would seem like this serves as an anchor point to allow the chain to be attached to the carriage and then have them use sort of transport like this. Mechanically, it clearly works. You know, it gives them an anchor point to use as a game design aspect. But lore-wise, it's kind of sad if that's true, that every single giant had its stomach carved out in this way for their convenience of sort of transporting supplies. But for me, that's an unsolved mystery, because I'm not certain about the true answer. Last but not least then, for our fifth unsolved mystery, I bring you back to the room of Malenia's boss fight at the core, at the bottom of the Halig tree, right where we can see the former cocoon of Miquella, who was basically sacrificing his blood to generate this tree, to grow it. That's all very interesting, but the unsolved mystery is where or what are the shadows of Miquella and Malenia? If you're unaware, Empyreans are basically those that are possible to be carriers of the Elden Beast. So succeed Marika as the container of the Elden Beast. Now, it's still lightly debated what an Empyrean is and what makes an Empyrean. Is an Empyrean born or is an Empyrean chosen? What matters is that Empyreans exist. We have the rule of like them being possible successors of Marika, and we also have the consistent rule that they are given a shadow to protect them. It's natural that the Greater Will wants to protect its possible carriers, so giving them a powerful bodyguard, I suppose that makes sense, right? So Marika obviously got Maliketh, the bestial wolf companion, and Marika ended up using that shadow to basically be the container and protector of the Rune of Death. Ranni also, of course, got her own shadow, another bestial type. This is another wolf type. Of course, we're talking about Blaith. Best boy, best character in Elden Ring. Between those two shadows, we can say for sure that the shadows are beholden to their charge, not the Greater Will anymore. Their shadow works specifically for the one they're bound to. Maliketh completely leaving Marika and no longer protecting her to follow out her will, which is to go deal with the Rune of Death. Blaith was willing to go against his own nature and his own original charge, to go against the Erd Tree, to go against the Greater Will that seemed to have created him to serve Ranni. But it all comes back to Malenia and Miquella. Where and what are their shadows? Why don't they have them? I've never seen reference to Miquella's shadow. I've never seen reference to Malenia's shadow, but it did get me thinking. Malenia is the blade of Miquella. Miquella. She serves Miquella as his guard, as his weapon, as his blade, literally. And when she transforms in phase 2 and becomes the full rock goddess, what is she? Well, she's kind of like a butterfly, isn't she? She has the wings and the butterflies are flying out everywhere. Perhaps because they were born at the same time as twins, maybe Malenia is literally the shadow, the beast protector of Miquella, beholden to Miquella as her charge. And well, yeah, we know she was. It's a cool theory, not based on anything direct, I think. So certainly more of an unsolved mystery with my own fun theory. Let me know what you think. Well, there you have it. Those are our 5 unsolved mysteries for today. I did my best to actually try to answer them, and hopefully, yeah, there were some good answers from the resources we do have. But I think these are really interesting topics, and I just want to re-emphasize that, yeah, while I speculate in this video, I'm not beholden to any of these theories. If you know something I don't, or have a cool or interesting theory that seems more likely than anything I've said today, I'd love to hear it. But if you've enjoyed this video and would like to see more of its type, please do like the video so we know we can make them. For now, though, I've been Hollow. You've been you. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.